Other breaking news on this election night tonight, because the Senate, on its 8th try, has just voted to advance a measure that would force President Trump to end the war with Iran or get authorization from Congress. The vote was 50 to 47, and for the first time, Republican Senator Bill Cassidy joined 3 of his Republican colleagues in voting with Democrats. Democratic Senator John Fetterman was the only one in his party who voted against it. But Cassidy's vote is notable because it comes just a few days after he lost his bid for a 3rd term in Saturday's Louisiana primary against a Trump-endorsed challenger, who is now headed for a runoff in that seat. My source tonight is Democratic Senator Tim Kaine, who introduced this measure to limit the president's war powers. And Senator, we had you on a few weeks ago. You predicted that more Republicans would vote with you. Why do you think Senator Cassidy voted with you this time?
Well, you know, Kaitlan, I don't want to put words in colleagues' mouths, but I guess the way I'll say this is when we started on this path to say no war against Iran without a vote of Congress, we had 1 Republican vote, Rand Paul. A few weeks later, we were 8 weeks into the war, we had a 2nd Republican vote, Susan Collins. Last week, once we passed 60 days, which is relevant under the War Powers Act, we got a 3rd vote, Lisa Murkowski, and today Bill Cassidy joined. And this slow, steady momentum of Republicans saying, Mr. President, you can't wage war without Congress, is building. It matches what I'm hearing as I travel around Virginia. And I predict we're going to continue to see more Republicans in both the House and the Senate join in to assert the constitutional prerogative of Congress members that a president should not be able to wage war on his own.
Well, I mean, there were 3 Republicans who weren't there today. And so I think if you're looking at the math and everyone is there, when you take another vote, if it goes to the House, if John Fetterman stays in no, you will need more Republicans. So where do you think that math is? Who do you think you could get to come around here?
Here's the math that matters. What's the price of gas? I don't think we'll have the vote on the motion to proceed to the bill on the Senate floor until after we come back from Memorial Day recess. So here's what I think is going to happen, Kaitlan. We won the vote today to discharge the bill from committee and finally have this debate on the Senate floor. Folks are going to go home in the Senate for a week-long Memorial Day recess. Americans are traveling to family reunions and a beach weekend, and they're going to know how much they're paying to fill their car up compared to last year. And they're reading stories about American troops who've died and others who've been injured, and what the long-term consequences of the Straits of Hormuz being closed are, not only on gas, but grocery prices, the inflation rate generally. We're going to hear an awful lot from our constituents next week when we're back home. And I think when we come back the week after Memorial Day, having heard from folks, I think there are a number of other Republicans who could be moving our direction.
Yeah, a lot of people are going to be driving this weekend. You know, when it comes to the impact gas is having on Americans, the president was criticized for what he said last week, that Americans' financial situations are not a consideration when he makes decisions on the Iran war. He later repeated that statement, and I asked the Vice President, J.D. Vance, about it today, and this is what he said. You last week denied that the president said he was not taking Americans' financial situations into consideration when he's making decisions on the Iran war. He was asked about that again. He stood by it, called it a perfect statement, and said he would make it again. Do you believe that Americans' financial situations should be taken into consideration when you're making decisions as an administration about the war?
See, Kaitlan, what you did is you misrepresented the question that I was asked, and then you misrepresented the answer that I gave. What I said is that a question that was asked where the president allegedly said that he didn't care about Americans' financial situations. He never said that. What he said is that it was totally taken out of context. What he said is that when he is negotiating with the Iranians, he's focused on the national security objectives that he's trying to achieve.
I mean, I looked at what the vice president was asked and what the president was obviously asked. It was very clear what the question was here in terms of whether or not this should be a consideration. What did you make of the vice president's answer today?
Well, first, the president spoke the truth. He doesn't care about America's financial situation, or he would be making very different decisions about the economy, tariffs, for example, and about the war, which is punishing Americans. And J.D. Vance's answer, Kaitlan, have you ever seen such a furious backpedal in your life? I mean, no person watching that answer would give it any credibility. He's criticizing you for your question, criticizing you for your characterization of both his answer and the president's. How about come up with a defense for why this administration is embarking on a one-man wrecking ball against the American economy and American families? He can't do that. And you can almost see the sweat on his brow as he's backpedaling to try to, obfuscate an answer to your question.
Senator Tim Kaine, thank you for joining us tonight.